After the forced removal from their homelands, leaders of the Cherokee Nation sought ways of protecting their people in the future. Their answer? Education. The leadership of the Cherokee Nation reasoned that by producing their own teachers, businessmen, and political leaders, they could best ward off the unwanted influence of outside nations. The Cherokee Tribal Council established both the female and male seminaries in 1846, just 8 years after arriving in their new homes in Indian Territory. The goals of the seminaries were clear. The tribe wanted to develop well-educated Cherokees who could defend tribal sovereignty and protect the Cherokee way of life. The male seminary would be a 3-story brick structure and would offer an education that rivaled top-tier academies in the Northeast for Cherokee students from all backgrounds and classes.
Before they completed construction of the buildings, they sent a committee of 3 councilmen to the Northeast on a fact-finding mission. And so they went to analyze the top academies in the Northeast. And the idea was that they were going to create replicas of these schools in Indian Territory.
The Cherokee government recruited teachers from Yale, Mount Holyoke, and Newton Theological Seminary to become the first of many Eastern-educated teachers who traveled west of the Mississippi to teach in the Cherokee Nation. On May 6, 1851, 4 years after Chief John Ross laid the cornerstone, the Cherokee Nation opened the Cherokee Male Seminary, the first secular school west of the Mississippi River. Students ages 17 to 21 studied Latin, English, grammar, arithmetic, and geography, preparing the young men for a university education. Several generations of young men who attended the seminary from 1851 to 1910 had great influence on Cherokee history, identity, and culture.
Other tribes had boarding schools that were academies, but they weren't necessarily modeled after Northeastern academies, and they weren't recruiting teachers from the Northeast. Usually they were run by missionaries. So what the Cherokees do is actually pretty innovative.
Unlike federal boarding schools, which sought to kill the Indian and save the man through religious conversion, the Cherokee Male Seminary was run by the Cherokee government. It sought to protect their nationhood and culture, emphasizing the importance of Cherokee independence.
At federal boarding schools, there were strict rules against speaking in your native language, and it wasn't like that at the Cherokee Male and Female Seminaries. You were allowed to keep your Cherokee name, you were allowed to speak in Cherokee. A lot of the later teachers graduated from the seminary, and they returned to teach at the seminary. So you have fewer white teachers, more Cherokee teachers. So the intention was completely different, because the intention for the male and female seminaries was to strengthen tribal sovereignty and to strengthen independence and to strengthen cultural identity.
The male seminary faced a number of challenges throughout its history. In 1856, the school did not enroll students due to economic problems, and as the Civil War ensued, the tribe was not able to reopen the school. During this time, many of the seminary's buildings fell into disrepair or were used as hospitals, stables, and warehouses. The tribe would work to reopen the male seminary by the mid-1870s, eventually rebuilding the school to what some said was a better common school system than the surrounding states had to offer. In 1910, the school burned down and was never reopened, ending a remarkable chapter in Cherokee history.
Every aspect of the school symbolized what the Cherokees were capable of achieving. John Ross and the council gave young Cherokee men and women the opportunity to have a foot firmly planted in each culture. So the legacy is that they symbolized the spirit of resilience and ingenuity and adaptation characteristic of the Cherokee Nation.